Osiris, Moses, Amun, Jesus, Isis, Muhammad. The astonishing list of names that have inspired religious belief in Egypt has no parallel anywhere on earth. This rich tapestry of traditions reaches back some 5,000 years. It is no accident that the tangible remains of ancient Egyptian civilization are primarily religious structures. Religion, more than any other concern, energized this accomplished people. It was the bond that anchored Egyptians to the land, to their king, and to eternity. Despite the ravages of time, these monuments still project a sense of serenity and permanence. Here, a fundamental belief of Egyptian religion, the importance of preserving a balanced and stable universe, was proclaimed in stone.
The idea of cosmic order was fundamental to the Egyptian psyche because all things that they valued and knew of, for example, the sun coming up each day and setting each evening to come up the following day, the Nile rising each summer in the inundation, the king ruling justly, all of these things were encompassed in a concept called Ma'at, or truth, or cosmic harmony.
When the cosmos was thrown into disorder, the Egyptians could expect famine, flood, plague or war, not to mention personal misfortunes such as miscarriage, snakebite or failed romance. The purpose of religion was to avert such outbreaks of chaos.
Egyptians have got a very strong sense they belong to an orderly world which is continually being threatened by an incredibly powerful, disorderly world that lies outside of it. That same vision of a threatened cosmos is shared by every level of Egyptian society.
These concerns remained constant throughout the three main periods of ancient Egyptian history: the Old Kingdom, Middle Kingdom, and New Kingdom, a span of time lasting more than 1,500 years. From the beginning, the Egyptians worshipped a changing hierarchy of gods and goddesses in which there were both national and local deities. On occasion, a local god might be elevated to national prominence. Egyptian deities were the guardians of cosmic order, but they also embodied the dangers that threatened it. Many of these gods were inspired by elements of the natural world.
Egyptian religion, or what we call Egyptian religion, was really the way the Egyptians looked at the world and tried to explain it to themselves. Things like air. What is air? What is the wind? Try to explain that to yourself without having the benefit of 4,000 years of scientific knowledge behind you. It's a being of some sort, and because it's not on the human level, it's superhuman, and therefore it's a god.
Ancient Egyptian texts recount several creation myths. The earliest and most widely known describes a dark, watery, primordial chaos. Out of this emptiness, a family of 9 creator gods were said to have brought forth everything in the universe. 3 descendants of these creator gods became the major players in Egypt's central religious myth: Isis, a fiercely protective mother goddess; Osiris, god of the underworld; and their ambitious brother, Seth. According to the legends, Seth murdered and dismembered Osiris during a struggle over royal succession. Isis revived Osiris and conceived with him a child, Horus. Ultimately, Horus became the rightful king after his own battle with Seth.
Interesting god, Seth. Because of the episode with Osiris and Horus where he dismembers his brother, he has a very, very unsavory reputation, let us say. And he becomes the god of chaos and the god of anarchy, the god of the deserts.
Desert creatures like scorpions and snakes were the first to become identified with Seth. Later, the hippopotamus and crocodile were also seen as embodiments of Seth and the destructive power of chaos. Small statuettes that show the child Horus grasping and trampling dangerous animals symbolized his mythic victory over Seth. These figures were thought to magically protect their owners from harm. The name Horus actually means "he who is above," and the falcon became the most important visual symbol of Horus. In the sometimes confusing Egyptian pantheon, the falcon also represented another important deity, Re, the sun god. Egyptians viewed the daily rising of the sun as a rebirth of Re, a sign that the cosmos was in order. However, each sunset brought darkness, the death of Re, and the renewed threat of chaos. According to ancient myths, each night Re descended into the underworld in his bark or boat. He had to traverse this realm of perils in order to be reborn the next morning.
The Egyptians believed that the sun god is on this boat, and it's making this nocturnal journey, and that every turn there's a demon out to swallow him, to impede him from dawning in the morning. And one of the most horrific beasts is this snake Apophis, whose only role in life is to impede the progress of the sun.
Re's unlikely ally in the battle against Apophis was none other than Seth. To the ancient Egyptians, one of the best ways to fight chaos was to enlist the gods who controlled it.
The Egyptians have this polarity with regard to their deities. They can be beneficent and they can be malevolent. If Seth is such a holy terror and you can harness that power for good, he no longer becomes the evil genius of our pantheon. So Seth rides the bark of Re in the nocturnal journey, beating up Apophis. The idea of turning evil against itself, fighting fire with fire, is defined by a Greek term, alexikakoi, literally meaning to change evil, to avert evil. So you turn something that is potentially harmful into something that becomes beneficial.
There are numerous examples of this theological jujitsu. The Egyptians personified warfare and plague in the lion-headed goddess Sekhmet. Yet the priests of Sekhmet often specialized in medicine, in effect, tapping the power of the plague goddess to cure illness.
By placating the goddess, she turns from a ferocious lioness into a kind of like kind, gentle little pussycat.
Similarly, the Egyptians placated the god Sobek, hoping for protection from crocodiles. While the ferocity of the hippopotamus could represent Seth, it was also seen as the ferocity of a protective mother and embodied in the goddess Teweret, guardian of pregnant women. In contrast, two of the most important deities, Isis and Osiris, were known primarily for positive attributes. The Egyptians looked to Osiris for regenerative power that echoed his own rebirth after being murdered by Seth. Osiris was seen as the power that made seeds germinate. He was the force that infused the dead with eternal life. Isis was the foremost protector of fertility and family life, reflecting her role in the epic myth. One of the most revered of deities, Isis would even be worshipped by Egypt's conquerors. Ultimately, the Egyptians' complex but ingenious pantheon allowed them to see the universe as a place that was explainable, and maybe even controllable. Through proper ritual and generous offerings, the Egyptians hoped to persuade their gods to rein in chaos. But the vital task of placating Egypt's all-powerful deities required an individual of immense status. Only one person could fill this role, the mightiest of all Egyptians, the god-king known as Pharaoh.